Okay, g'day Bobby. Just let me know if you can hear me, mate, and we'll get up and running. Okay, who else we got in today? Probably going to be a quiet session. There's not much to talk about, to be honest. Oops. Hope you got yourself a coffee. Can anyone hear me out there? All coming through loud and clear? I'll get stuck into it. G'day, Mark. I assume all good, fantastic. All right, let's rip into it. So, welcome to TradeSetup. Let's go over the morning overview of what happened last night. Not much, to be honest. Not a big night overnight. What happened? The US is actually Dow was up the other two. The S&P was pretty much, you can call that flat, up 0.01 down 0.01%, and the Nasdaq were down slightly. So essentially just a flat session overnight. At ECB, DAX was higher. The FTSE was lower. The FTSE is lower because I think pretty much they had some good figures out, but the pound is appreciating, which puts pressure because they're an export-driven economy or export-driven index. So a stronger currency actually pressures the market a bit. We've got ECB are looking to. There's going to be this is sort of the focus. They're looking to add stimulus. I think it's on Thursday. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that they're adding stimulus somehow, but it's whether or not the markets how much they factored in. So it could be if they're not happy with what the package is, the stimulus package is, then we could get a bit of a sell-off in the European markets anyway. But we'll have to see how the US reacts. Then I think the Thursday after is the Fed Reserve. So there's data out in the US that could chop things around a bit after the payrolls on Friday were weaker than expected. There's retail sales and there's one other, I think, later on in the week. So the markets we're looking at, if we get a weaker than expected retail sales, that may not bode well for the markets because what they're anticipating, is manufacturing is down, and there's a few areas that are down, but consumer, what's it called? The consumer's basically holding up. So if retail sales are off a bit, then they're sort of losing that one leg up that's buoying the economy or growth. So that could kick things around a bit. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, but all in all, that's pretty much they're focusing on what's happening going forward rather than just now. There's not much happened overnight. So we're looking at the SPY. This is the SPY finished around 4 o'clock up here at around 66.42. The market you'd expect open down, it just gradually wound its way down, come back down to that support. Didn't quite test it, but found some buys just a touch above that, about 2 points above. You'd expect that to come down. So the ASX to open down about 10 points. So we'll see what you mean. Anyone that watches the SPY in the open, you know that you chip around both sides of the market. It'll wash out, and reset, just to mess around the overnight positions. Especially something if you've got a key, it's right smack in the middle between 66.50 and 66.20. So I don't expect it to, spike up 20 points to tag 66.50, or there's a higher potential it could wash out lower, but you're still 15 points from that, which you could easily do. It could smack down, trigger a whole lot of stops, from the buyers that bought up here, and here. Because anyone that bought sort of around this level is comfortably in a small gain, but they're up, 5 to 10 points, say. So maybe they took some off here, but buyers around this level that have bought it off, potentially off support, it's triggered it 3 times, didn't wash through, closed up. So there is a chance that these buyers could be washed out in the spike lower. You don't know. We just have to keep an eye on how it opens for the next 10 minutes at least until the ASX takes, until it starts watching the open of the ASX. So they do have sort of that 10-minute flurry where the market can move around on the SPY. prior to the ASX open, and then it could continue for the next 5 or so minutes. I mean, a lot of the times you can see it pop up, and you go, that's kind of strength against the grain. So if we sort of hover up here, for instance, at 66.43, 10 points above where the market closed at night, more in line of where it closed at 4 o'clock, it could hover up there, and you go, that's sort of unusual. So you'd expect the ASX to open neutral, roughly where it closed. But if it starts opening down 5 or 6 points, you know that there's a good chance that they're just washing out the upside, and then they're going to hammer it back down again. It's going to come back more in line to where it closed or slightly lower. So that's sort of how you're watching the open. And the open, we've another 8 minutes or so till it starts opening, and then it's normally around the 5 or 6 minute mark. So 10:05, 10:06, when you get a clearer direction of what the ASX is going to open down or up. So if it's flat by then, there's a good chance it's not going to open down 10 points or 15 points. So if it does open down, you expect that it's going to be down somewhere around the 40 mark or below 40, which brings it in line to where that sell-off, what was that? That was around, just on the open. So the spike lower, that's the spike lower. So the open was about here. So the open here got smacked down on the open, down close to 20 points, and then rebounded. You got this big bounce back up, big pullback. So it was getting supported right throughout the day pretty much. Did ease lower into the end of the day. And we're sort of looking for that 66.40 mark to be the opening level, or just a touch below, which takes it, like I said, just in line to the lows from yesterday. But we'll see. The 30 minutes looking a tad heavy, but if it gets held up, especially above 66.30, for instance, that's relatively bullish, because you can see the pressure down. This is only the 30-minute chart, so anyone that's looking intraday, the pressure's down, yet it's not caving in. And it's not really away from the MAs like you see when the market's up here. It's getting ahead of itself up here. So it sort of corrects back to the MAs. A lot of times it does correct through and then starts to lift again back above the MAs. But at the moment, it's just sort of sitting right on them. So there is the chance that we can sort of go sideways again today and lift into the close. But we'll have to see. So there's all these scenarios we're trying to work out. Let's just take a look at markets overnight. This is a 30-minute chart on the SPY. I mean, it's sort of stuck between that range, 66.50, 66.20, smack in the middle. It's hard, hard to trade the open from here, because you could easily roll over, hold this lower high, roll over, break support, or this could build sort of spike lower and hold a higher low off this support. So you can see touch, 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 and it's rejected again, rejected, 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 down towards that level. Now this zone is getting rejected, so I could easily sort of, if you can see what I'm talking about, the market could easily sort of hold down, and then what it does is create that negativity and then soak it up and build that high low and spike back up, and it could just go straight through. But we'll see. Otherwise, from here we might just pop up, hold lower high, and sort of drift lower again into the end of the day. So that's sort of what we're looking for. Recently it has been just opening, grinding up, and it's been a kind of a hard one to trade. I had 3 trades yesterday, so I'll show you that and the reasoning behind it. So anyone that was listening to the talk at 12:30, when we're talking inside out, outside in, I'll just show you the trades we did from yesterday. It was essentially a scratch day. I think I was up 1 point over the 3 trades before commission maybe. So yeah, we'll go over those. Wall Street hanging around that resistance zone we mentioned yesterday, that sort of liquidity zone up here is the top end. It is looking heavy, but don't let that fool you. The market could just spike up. So you can see what I tend to keep an eye on when you've got a market that's going chopping around sideways. You go, oh, it's looking heavy, like I just mentioned. Stochastics are coming down, meaning the pressure is coming in from the sellers. But when you look at it, it's really getting soaked up. The buyers are soaking it up, and it's like a bit of a setup. They can tend to roll over. I mean, this could easily happen. It could just get caved in, but that's news driven. It's got to be news driven if this sort of sell is going to happen. But generally, a lot of the time, it could sort of chop around, and set. So that's the rally, and it starts to chop around a bit up here, and it starts to creep down, bringing in lower highs, and the expectations that it's going to do that. Does that make sense? The expectation is just going to tip over, but a lot of the time when it comes, it sort of can do this type of price action, and you can see the selling pressures coming in, but it's getting soaked up slightly lower, and then it can just bang higher, because what it's doing is setting up all those shorts and then squeeze them back out again. And it's just a trap. They can trap the shorts in there and then bang them straight back out again. as it's pushing back up to this liquidity zone. So we'll be watching that. I mean, otherwise, if it does do this, so be it. Then we just got this bit of a rollover. The US, so this is big S&P, S&P 500. It's similar type of thing. It's just at that top end of, and it just did fail back in there. So I just got my eye on that failure to see what sort of happens. Was that it? So this is an hourly chart. So it did fail yesterday. It sort of gradually edged higher, opened up, went down. But it's back sort of in this liquidity zone. So again, like I said, you can't just be, oh, it's failed there. We just could be popped back up again, straight back up, easy enough. And that structure's up still. It is getting extended. This overall zone up here is getting extended, but we'll just have to wait and see what plays out. The DAX, again, they're just holding. Nothing much happened really last night. I think the DAX is up a few points, but all in all, nothing much happened. Still sitting in that liquidity zone. We saw highs, punched through, come back, retested in there. There was enough buying support to push it back out. Same here, come back into that zone, straight back out again, chopped around here a bit, above and below, and then got smashed. And it's back there now, so we just have to see whether it's going to start to edge lower. It could wash out the highs and just jam lower, a bit like this, wash it out, and then boom. Or it could just sort of chop around. But what you want to see is sort of expansion candles to see a bit of volatility come in and then start to see what direction it's going to pick. And the UK, so they had some decent numbers out, and that's when I think the pound rallied. It was around the, actually, yeah, I think it did rally around there. I've got to remember when it did. So that's on the back of numbers, positive numbers. So I don't know, it's really rallied hard. It's more just because of the pound. So yeah, they got knocked down a bit on the FTSE. And gold. We know what's happening with gold. It's edging down. So we drew this up yesterday. We were looking at this sort of W pattern, and hopefully we can hold some higher lows, but it didn't play out that way. It sort of chopped around, keep retesting. You see this push up, and if you don't get, so one thing to note, if you get this sort of, what you want, if you get a couple of retests, you want a good solid move up, and then you want the gradual move down. And what that's doing is moving back up to sort of maybe above the MAs like we did here, and then you want a gradual move down so the MAs look like they start to come in. And then if it can start to lift off a higher low, you want it hovering around the MAs rather than, pushing up, and that's the 20, backing off from the 20, going a bit of a deeper correction. All this is really a flush, but that trend is still holding down. Okay, so you got that bit of a flush back up, it took out this high, and that was on around the open, was it? Yeah, opened the US session, flushed out the previous high from, that was our day session, 11 o'clock, 11, 12 o'clock, flushed out that high, and then jammed lower, and it's just still, the trend is down at the moment. It's looking like it's going to head in and start to retest this zone through 1492, which I think is about 15 on the futures. Actually, in saying that, there was one thing I just wanted to show you. Copper. Oh no. Never mind. Oh, crude. So it's oil. I just want to show you the longer term chart because I think it's starting to look good. Anyone else's view on oil? So you've got longer term. You've got obviously big sell off down here, and that was back in 16, and it bounced back up. And the sellers, if it was still weak, they should have been able to push it back down to at least retest this low zone. And I reckon that was a low from the weekly. There you go, and that was a low from that massive sell off in 09. So it sort of took out that low, which is good because it washed it out and it's bounced back up. So what it's doing is actually holding again. Then you start to see a bid zone come through. You can see it's around 42, say 43. Bids don't retest it again, starts to take off. So when it can't get through, and if that's negative, so the sellers are trying to drive it through and it's getting soaked up. It got soaked up quite well. If it gets soaked up, the sellers are sooner or later going to give up and the buyers are going to take over. So it just goes, that fight. We talk about buyers and sellers fighting out until there's a direction taken. One side is going to give up, is going to feel the pressure and figure they're not going to win out. And a lot of the time, if they're sitting on a bit of profit and they're looking like it's starting to hold up, and they'll be eyeing this zone for potential to hold up, they just back off and then buyers continue on up and see if they can start to get a profitable trade on. And that's what's happening. It's pumped up, comes screaming back down here again. I'm suspecting that was around the time of that was a sell-off in October last year. Got smacked down again because obviously any sort of sell-off to do with trade wars, it's a drag on demand potentially. Global demand, market got smacked down, straight back down to the liquidity zone. what we've done is rebounded quite strong, and that next sell-off is getting supported. So something like this at a higher level. Okay, so we're all on this daily chart. So we've got this higher level that's been confirmed at 50, say 50, 50 even. And as you really crunch down again, you've got another inside level at 53.35. So for me, this bodes well for a break up through 60.75, potentially targeting those highs at 66. And it could even, if it gets a run on, it could easily go to $72 a barrel. Or at least testing this longer term. I'll get back to that. This longer term downtrend. Does that make sense? So just keep an eye on oil and your oil stocks, because if this does lift, it could easily lift back up sort of towards that zone, still hold this downtrend and then roll over. But it's looking like it's getting supported at higher levels. You can see higher, high, low, good high, low off here. And once it's retested, it's failed. Buyers are in control. It's come back down. Sellers tried to start to jam it back down in here because that's the initial target at that stage. Got bought up, had another go, take a bit of a pullback, had another go at the low, got bought up again, so it got soaked up. And you can see them with this type of inside action. The sellers are starting to give up, and the weight of strength potentially is turning to the buy side. That's my view. It is getting a bit extended up here, so we might get a bit of a pullback. If it can hold another high low, that could be just the emphasis it takes it to at least get up to these highs here, but we'll see. So just keep an eye on that. I thought I'd show you that. Where are we on the SPY? So what I'll go through now is, see, we're just jamming down now on the SPY. So where are we? Index is only up 0.3. So be wary that we're actually going to, there we go, we just flicked over negative. We might still just flick over negative and still open down around 10. The way the SPY is looking anyway, it looks like it's going to open down 10. Like it's driving down to that 66.20. So keep an eye on that. I mean, it could easily hold up. It could wash out these lows. So this is what the market loves to do time and time again. You can see that has held up there a few times. It could easily wash that out. It might be enough to get it down to 66.20 or even wash that level out. And then if it's extended down here, as in stochastics, or right down on the 20 or so, if it's extended into that zone, I'd be more inclined to see if it can lift off that level. See if we can get a buy off that level. Any questions there, guys? And I'll just quickly run over the trades. I'll get those now, and then we'll finish up. Just to show you what I was doing. Hopefully it makes some sort of sense. What I did yesterday. What was the date? I did say it. There we go. It's right about 9th. So I'll open these both up. So just to cover off, this was what we're looking at. This is the open yesterday, and this is a 30-minute chart. So we're sort of looking for that pop up to the resistance zone. Kind of hard to trade it in there. I don't think we had any trades tick off then. No, not really for me. I wasn't really watching it then. It did pop up. Yeah, it did pop up there, but I was looking for more to see what happened around this 66.50. Because a lot of the times what I'm looking for, if it gets into a zone, the SPY is notorious. It doesn't tend to just barge straight through. It's very rare that it'll barge straight through. And if it's extended, say on the 5-minute, and you extend it into this zone, you expect a washout. I'm always expecting a washout. But if it extends, you sort of expect some sort of backing off. So we were looking at that. I thought it might come down a bit quicker and come back to sort of that reversion to the mean, which it did, but it really didn't get too far ahead. So it was kind of a hard one. I started off with a long in here, and it looked like it was going to hold, and for the off chance it was going to straight up to the top end, but it didn't play out there. I think I took a stop on that one, stop out, and then went basically short once it confirmed short. So I'll show you those now. And if you've got any questions, just let me know. And Bobby, I'll send you out that stuff too, by the way. Just forgot. Yeah, so I was looking for the highs. That was cleared out, just what we mentioned there on the 30-minute. You've got this open, pressed down, and bounced straight back up. Retested. Maybe you could have taken a break. See this green candle here. I can't really show you, but this green candle here, take a stop on above. That probably would have been a prime one, but I took a long in here somewhere, which is probably late to the party, especially after this grind. And I think it was really just, I was trying to get myself into the market and seeing if it can grind high. I was expecting if this could continue, it's just going to keep grinding and might get a 5 to 6 points out of it. but instead I've pretty much got the high just about. But that was a grind, and that was continuing high. And why I shouldn't have probably put it on, you can see the momentum was slowing, and when you got the market, grinding up and the momentum slowing, that's divergence. And divergence means sooner or later you might have to, the market might want to go higher, but it needs to wash out the lows first and just take a few of those buyers back out, reset and go, which it sort of did to some extent, but then drifted into the close. So that stopped there. Basically, I got stopped out here, but the reason for going short straight after that was because of this flush. You can see that spike through, washed out that high, and then settled on its low, and then you got an indecisive candle after that, and it looks like the sellers are starting to come in. And this little minor uptrend was starting to get broken, so I go, okay, this could be the flush I'm looking for. Especially after we got through that 66.50, you'd expect some sort of reaction lower, and hopefully it overshoots on the downside, which it did. So that trade there pretty much just made back what I think I lost on that initial buy up here. Stopped out, took it off because it just started flagging, didn't get this little pop lower. It really run out of steam, and you're sort of looking at that thinking, okay, if this is just a flush and there's no news to trigger it lower, and you've got to keep an eye on what the other markets are doing now. If the Dow starts moving lower, the overnight Dow, you've got all the other markets, gold starts spiking, it's probably going to be some news that I haven't seen yet, and I can hold on to that short. But when nothing happens and there's no real reason that you can find fundamentally or news driven that's driving the market lower, you're better off just keeping an eye on it, that it's going to be it's just a flush like you're expecting. And we got that, took it off, forget about it. So what we got, a bit of a gradual grind up, and you can see this little minor double top here, top, below these highs, below the day's highs. That's not conducive to a bullish market. And then got this little minor lower high coming into play. So there, my bias was going to be short, and ended up shorting it just in here. And this was later on the day, probably just before 2:30 or so. After 2, I think it was about 2:15 if I'm right. Short, probably a bit late to the party here, but shorted it and had to sit through just an absolute grind. And by the time it was grinding, and you could see it jamming lower, straight back up, jamming lower, straight back up. And if that's the case, and you haven't got the momentum increasing on the downside, and it looks like it's just a roll, remembering that we've got the 30-minute chart that's not actually down, it's up, I think, still. Let me just get that. 30-minute chart, so that momentum's still up roughly at this stage. This could be just a bounce on this chart, so you're sort of looking at it, trying to weigh it all up, going, oh, it's a grind. I'm better off just cutting it and leaving it, which it did. Cut it for 1 or 2 points, which sort of covered this loss plus, this one and this covered that loss plus the extra to cover commissions pretty much. So all in all, they're the trades that we've got out yesterday. Don't know how we'll go today. We'll see how we go. So if we get a chance to do some, and then I'll let you know tomorrow. Any questions on that, guys, just let me know. If you want, I can send this off to you, this chart. I don't think I've got anything rude on there. No. So, and it might just be good as reference to save. Look we got here, jam down to the lows, 66.23. We'll just see it's starting to, and the way it jammed down and it's bounced up quite hard. That's not a bad sign. We're down 15, so we're opening a little bit weaker than what we expected, and that makes sense when you're looking at that this move down. But then you look at that, it could be what we did yesterday. We banged down straight back up. The market likes to flush and reset. Just remember that. So we'll have to see if this is going to hold up. We didn't get through that. It bounced straight back off. So, if it doesn't flush, I'm wary that we're going to start to hold. If we start holding here and start to look like we're edging down, we could just blast straight through that low. So just be wary. But the overall, you can see it's sort of sideways more than anything else on that market. So we'll keep an eye on that there, guys. That's about it. All right. Thanks very much for joining me. Any questions, just let me know. If you want me to send you those charts, just shoot me out an email, support@tradesetup.com.au, and you could just save them as reference. And any questions from those, just give me a yell. All right, guys, enjoy your day. I'll speak to you again later.